Hey, Jeremy Crow here. In this video I wanted to go over a little bit about how tradition is treated within the left-hand path. So, I wanted to do this video. I was trying to think of what topic I was going to cover, and this is something I've been thinking about quite a bit lately, and I just happen to have my son in the car here with me while he fell asleep, and my wife has gone in to get some provisions for us. And I thought, you know what, I'll do a video right now on tradition. And a lot of times people have this weird view of the left-hand path, like a very caricature of the left-hand path, where it's all dark, it's all solitary, and anybody who's involved in a group or has any kind of respect for tradition whatsoever is not true left-hand path. You know, I think that's a load of bull, actually. What the left-hand, you know, the problem that I think, the problem that exists for this is that the terms themselves, the left-hand path and right-hand path, set themselves up to be viewed as a binary, as a polarity, as a 1 or 0, kind of like the right-hand path is all light and light working and good and all of that, and the left-hand path is all 100% focused on the darkness and evil, even some people will say, or complete selfishness and no respect for anyone else. It's viewed as a self-centered path. Now, to some extent, you know, these ideas didn't form in a vacuum. You know, it's not just the semantics of it. It's not just the wording of left-hand path versus right-hand path that make people think that. Although I do think that is a huge factor. I think that I prefer the term complete path instead of left-hand path, and I'll explain why. The thing is that we're not caricatures, you know. It's you don't, you know, there's even the people who were considered saints, you know, if you look into their life, I'm sure you can find a little or maybe a lot of dirt on them, you know. Nobody is perfect. If you look at the yin-yang symbol, you've always got the little bit of black in the white section, you got the bit of white in the black section. You don't have these kinds of stark polarities in the real world. The same is true for left-hand path and the right-hand path. Now, the right-hand path is a little closer to one of these caricatures, to be fair, or to be honest. You know, I think that many on the right-hand path are, well, to be honest, doing it wrong. You know, I think that a true right-hand path does recognize the darkness, does recognize the dark night of the soul, you know, which comes from, you know, Christianity. That you know, St. John of the Cross, I believe it is, and who's her name? There was a female saint as well that was involved with this whole development of the idea of the dark night of the soul. And this is more of a right-hand path concept, that you have to eventually kind of deal with the shadow if you know, to achieve your goals, the goals of the right-hand path, you know, which is complete unity, ecstatic union with divinity, essentially. Or you know, I'm taking kind of a more Christian mystic approach to explaining the right-hand path, but it translates into other non-Christian or traditions as well. But you'll have like nirvana or something along those lines, or in a pagan sense you might have unity with the all, or the universe. Now you have to deal with the shadow at some point in order to succeed in the right-hand path. So anybody who is claiming to be right-hand path and says, oh, I'm a light worker and I shun the darkness, well, you're not doing it right. You know, you're following an incomplete path, calling it right-hand path. But you do find that a lot more commonly on the right-hand path, where people will claim to be light workers and shun the darkness, and they never work with any kind of shadow working type stuff at all. That is stereotypical right-hand path, but it's an incomplete form of the right-hand path. Now you have the same thing on the left-hand path as well, where you'll have people who believe that to be left-hand path you have to focus on the darkness, and then you don't do any kind of light work at all. They're like, oh, you're not gonna healing work? That's right-hand path crap, you know. and I think it totally misses the point. To be a complete individual, to be a complete harmonic, you know, to create that complete harmonized self that is so powerful, that is so focused, and you have to deal with the light and the darkness. Now I think that the thing that distinguishes the left-hand path is that it's almost explicit to say, you know, well, yeah, we're human beings, we love people, you know, we care about one another, you know, we have compassion for individuals, you know, we can feel empathy, we value, you know, connection with others, but the thing is, we practice the light, we embrace the light, but we also do not shun the darkness. We courageously explore it, we seek it, we go out, we go into it and explore it, heal anything that is damaged there, utilize the darkness, become comfortable with the or at least accepting of the more challenging states or emotions that we can go through as a human being, you know. So you have that light and the darkness. And so that's why I feel like the left-hand path is more explicitly a complete path, because you don't have this expectation of being a light worker and shunning the darkness, you know. And on the left-hand path, you're not a dark worker who shuns the light, you know. That's pretty ridiculous. You know, like nobody would have families, nobody would have any friends, you know. You wouldn't have left-hand path organizations, you know. So what is this role of tradition within the left-hand path then? Well, tradition we do have some level of respect for tradition, because oftentimes tradition is what has developed over a long period of time because it works, you know. And that is the respect we have for tradition. If we investigate tradition and find it lacking, find that bunk, or find that it doesn't work, then we abandon it. If we find something that works better than a traditional method, there's no stigma against breaking tradition and utilizing that newer discovered method that works better, you know. It's very pragmatic, and it challenges tradition, absolutely, but it doesn't dismiss tradition out of hand, you know. There is value there, but not all traditions were formed because they were true. Sometimes it's just because it's been done that way for so long, and it's gone on unchallenged for a very long time. So it's important to challenge tradition, but not to dismiss it out of hand. So as I said, if there's value there, embrace it, you know, utilize it. The other thing that I've been thinking a lot about in terms of left-hand path is apotheosis. So the becoming of a god. And one of the things that I find interesting is the whole idea of ancestor worship, or more accurately referred to as ancestor veneration. So people don't really worship their ancestors. It's called ancestor worship, but that's really a misnomer. you don't worship your ancestors, but you do give them respect and veneration, and sometimes what you do is almost it seems kind of like worship to some people, but it's symbolic. It's a respect, and it's an appreciation for what they've accomplished, what they've done, the place that they brought you to. You know, if the work that they've done that has placed you in the position that you find yourself in, you appreciate that. You appreciate the benefits that you've accrued through the work that your ancestors did. And there's this idea that they still exist in some form, and that they will continue to intercede on your behalf. Now, whether that's true or not, it's a nice idea, and regardless, it can actually mobilize aspects of yourself, even if there's no validity to it. There are aspects of yourself that are symbolically represented by the ancestors that you can mobilize internally through work such as asking your ancestors to intercede on your behalf, to influence events on your behalf. It's another method of magic, essentially, and you develop a relationship with these ancestors. And now, these can be blood ancestors, or they can also be more spiritual ancestors, in terms of, say you've been initiated into a lineage. They could be members of that lineage that came before you, and you could appreciate the work that they've done in the tradition that you happen to be utilizing. They can be somebody who you've never formally received a lineage through or from, but they have inspired your work. So that could be considered an ancestor as well, a certain type of ancestor. So then there's also the development of festivals, you know, and these types of things. And there's value in tradition. We don't want to just throw it out with, you know, it just because it smacks of collectivism, you know. There are aspects of collectivism that are very useful, and to just throw that out because, oh, I'm left-hand path, you know, because of a label you've identified yourself with, is, you know, that's kind of, you know, idiotic. Really, like, to stand on a principle and not even to really understand the concept. That it's a misunderstanding of the concept of left-hand path to begin with, to dismiss tradition out of hand, and to work with a group that could be perhaps utilizing a tradition. Sometimes you'll compromise on something that you don't necessarily agree with because it's part of the tradition, and you're using that tradition as kind of a shared language, a way to communicate, a way to kind of come together on common terms with these other people that you are doing group work with. And when you come together in a group, you know, it's very valuable to have that shared language, that shared tradition that you're all kind of coming together on when you're in that space. It can be compared to utilizing a temporary tradition. You can utilize a tradition temporarily in chaos magic for a specific purpose, and you throw yourself into it during the working, or even up to the preparation for the working. But then once you're not using it anymore, you can feel free to discard it if you no longer need it. You know, I could go on for a while, but I really do think that tradition does have a place within the left-hand path, and I think that group working, and I do think that these aspects of working with others and utilizing what others have brought to the table, I think that it gets unnecessarily thrown out by people who feel that, oh, that doesn't belong in the left-hand path. So, this is kind of, I guess, my public service announcement in a sense, to say that tradition is worth looking into. It's not something that doesn't belong in the left-hand path. I think that it certainly belongs in the left-hand path, in its proper context and in its proper place. So what do you think? What are your thoughts on tradition and its place within the left-hand path? Does it belong at all? What value does tradition have for us, and where can tradition actually trip us up? Where can it be a pitfall for us? I'd like to hear your thoughts and any experiences that you've had with working with a tradition, and the positives and negatives that you determine from that experience. And if you like this video, I would definitely recommend that I would be very appreciative if you were to subscribe to my channel, or follow my channel, depending on if you're doing YouTube or VidMe. This will allow you to know when a new video comes out. I am doing a new video every Wednesday, and that is released for my Patreon subscribers of $5 or more. I set it to public on the Friday, so you get a couple days early viewing of the video. If you're a Patreon subscriber, you can go to patreon.com/JeremyCrow and subscribe there. I really appreciate the support. It allows me to continue doing what I'm doing here, and it gives me a sense of commitment and a responsibility to following through with doing these weekly videos. Anyway, so check you around.